Okay, I'm calling to order the Denali Borough Planning Commission regular meeting on February 15th at 6:03. Can we have a roll call, please?
Sure. Susan Braun,
Sears.
She's here. There she is.
sorry. Yeah. All right, Eric Helgen. Steve Jones,
Here.
Mark Minke,
Here.
Baxter Mercer,
Here.
James Ward,
Here.
Kesson Titch.
Here.
There is a quorum, and Eric said that he would join as soon as he's off work.
Okay. Great. Are there any public comments? Any other public comments that you know about? Okay. All right. Is there a motion to approve the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda.
Second.
Any additions or changes? Okay, all those in favor of approving the agenda? Show of hands. Okay. The agenda is set. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the previous meeting?
Move to approve.
Is there a second?
Second.
So this is the January 18th meeting. Is there any changes to the minutes? Nope. Okay, all of those in favor of approving the minutes for January 18th? Okay, the minutes are approved. There's no correspondence. There are no plats or conditional uses. Can we have the mayor's report?
Yeah, thank you, Ms. Pent. Good to be with you this evening, commissioners. For my report, you do have the written kind of assembly report in your packet. It does speak to the city of Anderson water system issues that we've been working with the city on and with the state of Alaska Emergency Operations Center. Both the city and the Denali Borough did declare disasters. Does that make a disaster declaration for that big issue that was affecting a number of folks there with the infiltration of groundwater into the system? An update on that is that the governor has declared or at least we've had a verbal confirmation that he will be, and helping the city and the borough to recoup some of the expenses in our response there. And we appreciate, really the coordinated effort from the governor's office and the state emergency operations center, and our representative and our legislators, both Senator Shower and Representative McCabe, were helpful as well. And and yesterday there was just one house that still was without service or without a way to expel water, but that they're working on that one, so getting there. And yeah, the water table was incredibly high. It was interesting that the Nenana River at the gauge station in Nenana had a high for that date in early January. And, the groundwater was incredibly high.
Haven't had those 30, 40, 50 below zero days to slow it down.
So, so we'll update on that. And then, yeah, the next item is that Denali area airport planning study. Pretty excited that, DOT has issued that request for proposal for that planning study to engage for professional planning service to study the airport needs of the borough and determine the most appropriate site or sites for future public investments. Recommendations from the plan will include evaluation of alternative airport sites to serve the borough. So it's a methodical planning process that would be in accordance with the FAA potential funding streams. So next item, we'll just community awareness that Winterfest is coming up. The February 24th to the 26th, a Saturday night here at the community center will be that community dinner. and Community Service Award and bingo offered by Native Village of Cantwell. The addressing project continues, accepting requests continue to come in, and those first letters will be issued shortly, both residential and business street address applications, and that application can be found on the website. I do want to reiterate for everybody, the Planning Commission knows well the project, but the scope of the project, but I do want to just remind everybody that our assigning an address has no reflection on property ownership, property boundaries, surveys. It's simply where a driveway exits a road. That's what the project is identifying. And it's not making any broader statements about property. We've had some questions and concerns about that. So next I want to conclude this written report and then tell you a few things that I've been working on that have to do with Planning Commission initiatives. You know, you guys have worked on our pedestrian paths. There was in the omnibus bill congressionally directed spending of $2.18 million for pathways in the Parks Highway Corridor. We're excited about using those monies to forward ped paths here. It's not going to do it all. In fact, you know, it's a big lift in terms of just design and then of course construction of these trails, but we're having some really productive meetings with DOT and others, and the CTP, the Community Transportation Program applications, and the TAP applications are continuing to be refined along with our staff and DOT. I recently did attend the National Association of Counties Legislative Conference in Washington. It was a quick trip, just was there the last couple of days, actually just got back 5 a.m. today. So spent the last two out of the last 4 nights on red eyes, but there's a couple of days of really good conference and meetings there. One of the conference days spent half the day on wildfire resilience with a public lands summit on wildfire and some of the different programs there. That was really good. We had great speakers. Secretary Buttigieg talked a lot about the different transportation programs. I wasn't in the conference for President Biden's address to the group. He did come speak to the group, but I was at a congressional meeting at the time. Tuesday, yesterday was a pretty full day, really good congressional meetings, and a lot about transportation, frankly, and some transportation priorities that the commission and through our comprehensive plan have identified, including the elimination of the at-grade railroad crossing at 235. There's work on that. Of course, there's an application in for the railroad crossing elimination program from the state of Alaska. We're looking at another funding option for that project and talking about that project, you know, with partners, including the congressional delegation. It is a big, complex, long-term project. The application, you know, described it as an 8-year project. So nothing's happening tomorrow on it, but there's a lot of groundwork being laid on it.
So what is the plan at this point? I've kind of lost.
To realign the railroad, to move the railroad. So big, complex project.
Okay.
Expensive project to move a railroad and eliminate 2 crossings basically, right?
Mm-hmm.
Rather than have the railroad make the at-grade crossing and then the overpass, maintain the parallel structure. And, you know, there was the railroad feasibility study of a few years ago now on that west side. And a lot of again, the legwork is a lot of the engineering has been done. And today I was looking at the application and there's actually an updated, as of this month, February 2023, an updated benefit cost analysis for the project. And it was a really good score, 1.9. basically, almost double your money in terms of return on the project, long term. So, that project did percolate as a priority during that Pell study process, just completed not that long ago. So work on that one and the pedestrian paths, really impressed upon our congressional delegation how the burden of the match of 9% through the state programs or federal programs are all 20% matches cannot fall solely on the borough to keep our 500,000 visitors out of the ditches here. We need help with that and help with the matches and help with these projects and we're getting it. We're getting some good help and some really good meetings with DOT and with our federal delegation. So let's see what else. I guess that's it for the recent conference. Oh, and also we spoke to the FLAP program, and that Federal Lands Access Program is the program that is going to fund the pedestrian bridge over the Nenana at McKinley Village. That is sorely needed. And it is going to be a tough couple years where we have, a new trailhead and great trails on the park side and some new pathways on the private side, but still just the highway connection. And that's going to continue for a couple years, but it is that FLAP program that's funding that pedestrian bridge connection
On the old right of way,
on the old right of way location. Exactly.
that's where it needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. Just on the upriver side of the right of way, which is also used as a raft put in.
So the new paths that go underneath the bridge would be the access to get to the west side of the highway then.
To go from, are we on the commercial
So
side?
if the
or
pedestrian,
side?
pedestrian bridge is at the old right of way where the boat put in was, then
Yes.
people will, if they want to get to the
Triple
trailheads, XXX trailheads, will they still be crossing the road or is that path that they worked on underneath the bridge?
There will be paths under the bridge on both
On the
sides.
north and south side.
On north and south sides.
Okay.
Those pilings that they drove on the private side, is the connection between the east and west properties on the private side on the south side, we'll say. And yeah, on the north side or the park side, you see the trail angling. It's not quite completed, under there, but that will be the way you'll get from the new trailhead, the new wayside, which Superintendent Brooke Merrill did come to the assembly meeting and spoke to that project, how that's some of the remaining work on the 231 project this summer. There is some still highway work as well, just in the term of weeks, but there's a lot of work on the wayside, that's going to be constructed this summer. And it's going to be a nice wayside, with restrooms and plenty of parking. And that's where the trails will, diverge from. And yeah, for Triple Lakes, you'll go under the bridge.
And that'll be like the trailhead for the trail discussed a while back that would lead back towards the park entrance, like along the river.
So that's the Nenana River Trails.
Okay.
And that planning process is underway. And there's an EA will be an environmental analysis will be published shortly for the Nenana River Trails project. And I'm excited about that project. And I did offer support at those congressional meetings for it's 17 miles of some trail through some beautiful, non-wilderness area, the easily accessible entrance area. The preferred alternative, which the public will see when that EA comes out shortly, is a wider, gentler bike path connecting, the 230. The 230 wayside, we'll call it, to the Riley Creek area.
Mhm.
And then also a narrower hiking trail, which will track a little more easterly and hug the Nenana River bluff a little more. And it really is a beautiful area, and for people to, be able to enjoy the river that way. And I think it's going to be really good.
Mhm.
And it's all going to, come out off of that wayside. Yeah.
It makes a nice loop with Riley Creek too.
Oh, yeah.
That trail up there,
Ooh,
the Triple Lakes Trail or whatever they call it.
do that in one day.
Yeah, very well. You gotta go.
26 miles marathon.
Yeah.
You could bike one and you can run the other one.
It's
Try
like-
to swim in the river.
Not 26.
But if-
That would
but-
only be about 14.
But if you said the
Yeah.
new trail system would be 17 miles?
Well, the two together,
Oh, okay.
all the
bike
trails
trail and
together, all the
footpath,
proposed
okay.
trails
Okay.
add up to 17
All right,
miles
okay.
in the Nenana River Trails plan that'll be coming out in
Thought maybe
the,
there's just a lot of curves in there to get 17 miles out between the 2 points.
it's two trails.
Yeah.
Yeah. And frankly, the railroad plays a role in there in that it's tight. There's a pinch in that near that overpass. And it would be great to have that project further along and have it done for the trails to be able to use that little area there. But we'll see how the timing of it all goes. But that's in the plans.
Be nice to get rid of that overpass.
Yes. Yes.
But that's what Steve Zygmunt thought a few years ago. He was hauling Evans's excavator. So,
like that was Steve.
that was,
That hit that overpass. I remember that happening. I didn't know that was Steve. Okay, and I wanted to follow up also one other little item, follow up on your direction that you provide, which I appreciated at the last meeting of looking into engineering survey firms to work on a conceptual design plan. And we have reached out to a number of firms, and we're also interested in Fairbanks North Star Borough's processes. They're kind of doing a bit of the same thing. And we have a meeting scheduled with them coming up to learn what they've learned and who they're working with and how things have been going there. They're working with Design Alaska. So, we haven't made any decisions on that, but we're working on it, and I feel like it's in a good place, and we got some good interest. So, so that's what I've got for you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
And do we have a report from Community Development Director? Teresa?
Teresa's unable to be with us this evening, and frankly, she's doing some of this work, and really helping a lot with these transportation projects. My goodness, she's doing a great job in coordinating with DOT and advancing those CTP and TAP projects and other things as well.
Okay. And Marcia?
Yep, I'm just working on the addressing, processing the residential and commercial applications, drafting up the official letter that'll go out to people. Just stuff, addressing. Okay.
After the meeting, I'd like about 2 minutes.
Okay, yeah.
And Baxter, did you go to the assembly meeting?
Yeah, they didn't really ask any questions either. Just told them kind of what we discussed, what we were working on, where we were working on that about like night, the main thing. And no, in fact, the most discussion that got there I've seen in the borough was the discussion of ICHC's clinic and the letter that was introduced. And yeah. That's about it. X-ray machine got a lot of discussion.
Oh, did
or
it?
lack of an X-ray machine, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, most everybody was, I would say the majority of the people were in favor of an X-ray machine, didn't really quite understand why we weren't gonna get one.
Mhm.
And there was discussion about finances. For ACC, for ICHC, which I don't think we really have much in control over anyway, that was.
Mhm.
But anyway, yeah, it was, if the public all thought like the Borough Assembly and wrote a letter. A whole bag full of letters. But it,
Thank you. There are no communication and appearance requests, no unfinished business. So now we are working on business item K1. Review management plan for potential residential subdivision planning. So.
Steve? Steve?
I would just encourage,
So you turn your camera on.
oh,
You got to say yes to all the things.
Got it. Got it. Yeah. Probably want to do that, cancel.
See yourself then.
You got hit okay on this one.
Come on, wake up. Now you're on.
now we go. All right,
right.
okay.
Yes.
Well, I just would encourage us to at least request that we do this and set it up so it could be done in at least 2 phases. With the planning, whoever's doing the preliminary plan and stuff. Set it up so that it could be done in 2 to 3 phases.
Okay,
And that's.
so you're saying, okay,
You know, then that way we could fit our budget into the development of it easier. If we had that built into it to begin with.
mhm. Yes,
Thank you. So, in your packet, you have the management plan. And it is amended. It's updated as of December 14th, 2022. Through the process of both planning commission and an assembly approval, the Tri-Valley School parcel was redefined and is the main change that happened at that time. But, you know, it's good to have a look at all the work we put into this management plan. There's a lot of good information here, a lot of good work we can build off of, and that leads to the handout that you just received. Teresa did a nice job of putting this together, going through the management plan and pulling out all the parcels with that residential classification. So it's kind of, you know, kind of the one pager, which is going to refer to the different sections of the 93-page management plan.
all right, so. Does anyone have a place where they want to start, or does? Yes.
Well, for a start in that, you know, the area that we've honed in on thus far, the lignite area, that is so good in terms of ground, in terms of access, in terms of power. It's got so much going for it in those ways. And, you know, currently that is management authority land. Our surveyor has let us know that he's going to complete the process, and we're going to
Reinvigorated after our last meeting.
is reinvigorated, and we're hopeful there. And at the same time, there's also, you know, patented land that we do have, and I thought it was just worthwhile just, you know, revisiting some of those smaller and parcels that might be of interest, might be in areas where we know there's interest. And you know, if and when we do engage an engineering survey firm, you know, they could do a conceptual design for the lignite, and maybe we want to pick another little, maybe even smaller area for, or if there are other areas that are just lot size ready to go, just worth a look really at these other areas that are classified residential, and some of them are patented.
Do you have suggestions of what we can look at?
Well, let's see. And we do know there's interest in, you know, the McKinley Village area, in terms of land. And it's kind of limited. And we do have residential classification there. It's
This is tract E Yannert.
so we're on page
That's patented.
79.
That's like basically one lot.
That little one. That the last one on the list, the 1.3 acre.
Yeah.
That's that little odd lot, we'll call it, right? It really was an odd lot in the subdivision there. It's
On, see, page 80,
Page 80.
it's in the part that says C and B map or more detailed.
Mm-hmm.
There's right on the edge, there's a little bitty green dot.
it's shown a little better on page 85. The little dot's a little bigger.
Hey, it's still.
And it's this is
It's number 4.
number 4. So it's a little. Okay. And that black road is street.
That's
Access?
my access road.
So is that a public access?
It's on the lake road.
So is that something we could just offer for sale immediately? Is that, I mean, what is it even like?
It's got a little creek that runs through it. I have a 18-inch culvert there now. I'm going to replace it with a 36-inch culvert this summer. The 18 inches old barrels are rusting out, so I have a used 3-foot culvert that'll go. I'll put in there, and that's just before you go to that culvert. There's a little pullout that used to be where I parked all my equipment stuff before we had access to the subdivision in 84, 5, whatever it was. And there's a place there where you could pull a car out and drive onto the property. That's probably the best spot, because when I put that new culvert in, it's going to raise about a 3 or 4 foot high bank down onto that property, but it will keep the road runoff from going onto the property. Anyway, you'd have to put like a little pedestrian bridge across that creek that runs, the intermittent creek that runs through there in 2 to 4 weeks a year. And then you have a nice house site, but it's right at the toe of the slope of where my road driveway is. So, it's not gonna be there's no view, and it's gonna have traffic around two sides of it. And much higher than the property. So, it isn't gonna be a ideal spot, but there'll be an immense amount of interest in it for at least seasonal housing for somebody, one of the park drivers or something. There'll be a lot of interest on it.
Does that help with our? I mean, we could sell it regardless, but I mean, does it help with the survey that we got back?
Well, it is surveyed.
No, I'm saying the survey of the public
Right.
saying what the needs are that we're trying to address for housing.
Certainly still one more place to put one more house in that area, which is got roughly 50 plus odd houses in it anyway, so.
Last one. Oh, here.
So, parcel number 5 offers a buffer. It's a real thin, skinny piece of property. Offers a buffer between the subdivision road and the gravel pit and that 5-acre commercial piece that doesn't show, but it's the long flat edge of the strip all borders onto a piece that's owned by Siri. And it would offer a buffer from their commercial property to the subdivision. And I encourage it to stay as a
green space.
green space.
So do we,
Area number 3,
we don't even have that. So it's not even designated as residential.
no.
Okay.
Area 3 is on top of the bluff. Goes from the flat area along the bluff, and the road cuts down through a cut to the bottom where the entrance into McKinley Village and Grizzly Bear is. So it's up on the flats, and it borders Grizzly Bear on the north, Ottenland on the south, and the highway on the east. And it's in a non-use zone on the west from the state. And it's about 10 acres. And I would recommend that that's kept for the future, to put like a grade school or something as we develop 3 townships of land to the east of there. I mean, that's the only really good spot for a place like that, or a facility like that.
Good.
Grizzly Bear would love to own it or at least lease it, but I don't think that's the best use for it.
Mhm.
And that one's not listed as
It's
residential.
not-
No. And then unlisted is a green spot up by my lot, which is up here in the number 1 part, which you can see down below. And there's borough land around the bottom part of my property. Well, actually, the bottom part of my property and the bottom part of this dark green area is a lake. The corner is actually out in the lake.
Which dark green area? Are you talking about the one that's in? number
section-
one?
in
In
section
section 1?
In that inset.
Okay,
Okay, I'm adjacent to that lot.
okay.
You are to the east?
I'm the white indentation.
Oh, yeah, okay.
The north right there. Okay.
The end of this driveway.
But
Yeah.
the mutual corner on the right-hand side, right up in there, is out in the lake. So there's no access around the bottom of that. That's in water. Remember, these were patents from the US government, and they didn't consider anything. It didn't exist.
Makes a square.
We like rectangles. yeah.
Okay, we like that.
So, and then the reason you have that odd shape on the light green part is because the rest of that area to the left of that is in the non-use zone from the Nenana River.
Oh,
So after you, on parcel number 4, after you go up a steep hill, make a turn and do a little squiggly thing there and then head back up to the non-use zone, that down lower than that with the little cursor thing, that area that's further down, down below that, right in that area. Now there's probably enough room for a couple lots up in there that would have to be developed. That would not be visible from the highway, which is so would maintain the view shed and offer a couple really nice places for residential use. Though that hill is 12% grade and it's only about 14 feet, 12 to 14 feet wide. So the problem is that the cut into the bank uphill is got dye-based rock. And so if you widen it, you're going to spill down onto that little 1 acre part that is below it. There's no alternative to it. I mean, it's building a road there is tricky. But it is a road.
So thanks for that, Steve. You think that there could be a couple lots in that area where the cursor is?
Yeah, and they're on both sides of the road.
Both sides.
On both sides of the road, and from where that sharp point is, it goes back to the left. On back in there, there's some of that's north facing, not good, but some of it is flat and not north facing, not south facing. It just is flat, but and there's a dry river, a dry lake right there where the cursor is. So, but on both sides of that, especially on the left-hand side, I have a trail that goes out down there. That some nice land.
Yeah. Okay, taking that trail. Actually.
You've talked about it before, but maybe you could refresh our memories about the quarter section that we do have patent to already.
Okay, that was a native allotment that was turned down. Clayton Baker, who went into the BLM office and wanted to file on his allotment, and the person at the desk said, "What about this spot?" He'd never been there before. So after I built the road up there, he came up and he knocked on my door and he said, "What?" with the map, and he says, "Where is this?" Yeah, well, I showed him where his allotment was, or where his request. Then, the BLM guy came and said, "What about this?" And I said, "Well," he came to the door and asked him where it was. And we find out that the guy at the desk said, "This is a place that nobody's done that you could do." So anyway, they turned him down. This is about a 15, 18-year length of span that all this transpired. And if you had access to BLM records, there's about 50 letters in there going back and forth.
And the borough has it now.
Borough has it
Yeah.
now.
And would it be good developable land? Or-
It's a bunch of potholes and eskers. And you could develop little strings of 3 or 4 lots here, go down through a little swell, up 3 or 4 lots, and the corner up by the 30 is right at a lake. There's a lake right there, a nice lake. And there's that quarter section line that comes under the little cursor back down to the 31 is for the most part cut. It's been cleared. And there, I could show you where the monuments are. And then the section line going to the, at the northern edge is in, and the monuments are there. And that one that's coming north and south on that side is in and there. The one on the south side, it has never been cleared. The monuments are there on both sides, but there's no cut section line. There's no thing there, but some of that is out in the lake too. You know, about 5 acres of it is in the lake. And but down on the north side of that is a bench that has a really beautiful view of the mountains, the river, and it is a really nice spot. I mean, it's really one of the nicest spots. Access is a little weird, but you know, from about half of that northern boundary of it is, I'd say, some of the nicest land around. It's got a really good view of the river, of the mountains. Yeah, it's just nice. I go down there and sit with the snow machine, have coffee.
Cup of coffee.
And
Yeah.
just enjoy a spring sunny day. The rest of that is all over the place as far as quality of land. The soils map I have from the early 1980s by Baumhoff did that area. So there is a soils map available for that section, that whole section 31.
The whole section.
The whole section.
Wow.
Some of the tubes that they drilled and took cores, they put in white PVC pipes. Some of those are still standing out there. I mean, I know that area, that particular quarter section. I've got about 7 miles of trail in there.
That's your playground.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, thanks for that, Steve. For folks who are maybe not as familiar with it, know that it's a big hill. This doesn't show contours. And that little white square is a communications tower atop a high ridge, which drops off, steeply to the back there. And yeah, that terrain back there, I call it kind of Hill and Dale and yeah, Eskers, but there is some good dry ground that is not continuous, because you're going to come to some kind of little dale.
Yeah, there's places though you could put culvert to allow the drainage from those little wet areas. Some of them are pothole lakes, some of them are kind of marshy areas, and they're filling in. There aren't any, the lake I'm on and the Horseshoe Lake further out and one other lake in that area are pretty stable, but the rest of them are the grass is growing into the center. So,
and we don't have management. I mean, we don't have patent to anything that's light green, but to
86.
This Yannert section is the next on our priority list that we've been working through for boundary surveys. And Marcia, correct me or remind me, that's next, right? And we're planning on putting in to DNR for those boundary survey instructions, we'll say this year, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's going to take a little while.
So on page 86 is a contour map of that area.
Okay. And yeah, there you go, that hill.
And that quarter section line shows runs through the little map in the center of it up there on the top. And the one on the left-hand side is the lake that's part of my lot, part of that other green lot, part of this lot. And, there's 3 different parcels that are in dark green, or 2 in dark green in mine. that are actually have corners or boundaries out in the lake.
Mhm.
Mhm. Yeah, the little map on page 86, adjacent to the topo map, shows what the, how it runs through that lake.
While we're talking about this area, I'm interested in hearing more about another area, maybe back to that page 85 map. You've got, as you follow Yannert Road up and past the 3 lots on your left, that that break in the subdivision, is kind of a swale or a potential area for a road to diverge from Yannert.
I can address that one. As you go past those 3 lots, it's real wet down in there. And when we built the road, we just took big rocks and put in there and a French drain thing, and then laid gravel over the top of it with fabric.
Okay.
That was what was done in 86 or something like that. There's no culverts or anything. But as you hit those lots on that big corner further over, what was called Karma Ridge, the first lot you hit on the left is Joe and Molly's lot.
Mhm.
And then there's a couple, that was all part of Dulcie's lot from the subdivision originally. And now it's under different ownership. But until you get over to that lot, it's really wet down in there. But right along the property line of those 2 lots, you can go along there all the way, make the curve, and come back around where Tom Walker's lot is, right at the end of that little turn, and you line up with that quarter section line. It's not exactly there, but there is a path for a suitable road over to where the 31 is.
From uphill from the hairpin.
No, not up, right below, down a little further, right there, up against the bottom of those two lots. That area, it's really wet. It's not, I wouldn't say it's usable. It's frozen and wet all the time. But you go across there and make a little turn, go up the road and make a little turn. And that underneath those lots above where the cursor is maybe 50 to 100 feet area that's pretty dry. And you could go and make that corner. And as you make that corner, you can angle over to where the 31 is, which is right in there. And then you hit the survey cut that goes down. You get down towards the lake and you have to go, there's an area down there that drops into a hole. You have to go, in order to do a road, you'd have to go around it to the left-hand side. All very doable. But it opens up that quarter section with fairly good access.
Thanks for that. And I've been curious about that triangle to the south. Why would
That's
they?
really wet.
Is that really
Yeah.
wet?
It's unusable land,
This,
Okay.
that triangle.
Subdivision?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that whole thing there. The reason there's no lots in there is you couldn't put lots in there.
Okay.
The reason number 4 and number 5 weren't included is they weren't large enough to qualify for the state lots when they did this thing. The gravel pit and the private property kept number 5 from being any bigger. And my road kept the lot on number 4, that tract, from being any larger with what they had planned already.
So question, this road to these amazing lots, how many lots would you be able to get
And that
in order
quarter
to
section,
pay for that road?
I mean, you could do, oh, Jesus. you could do probably 40 to 50 lots out in that quarter section. If you stayed
That are
in
inusable.
in the
sections.
2.5 acre size range. But they would be little strips of lots. They wouldn't be big tracts of lots. They would be, along this esker, they drop across a little low area. Another one that takes off and goes. But as you get towards the northern half of that quarter section, it drops down to a big open wide flat place. And that's really nice. You have good soils out there, and then it drops off a cliff down to the river, and there's nothing down along the river that's usable. But that's all in section 30.
Okay.
Company for your coffee.
Well, I mean,
Hey, time moves on,
I
you know?
I've never advocated not developing this area, ever, not once. This is some of the best land that the borough has to develop. But let's do it right.
Yeah.
This was all part of a 3,000 acre, 1,500 lot subdivision that the state wanted to do in around 1980, 81, I think it was. That's why there's so much preliminary work already done. Those sections are already surveyed, US Survey 5565. And I've found all but one of the monuments on all those sections or half sections.
So in order to get title for this, do we have to survey all the quarter sections, or do we just survey this whole section?
Got title for the course.
The dark green, we have title to the
Right,
quarter
there's this
section.
other part here to get those. We're waiting, we gotta issue surveying instructions. So when we request that, do we have to, are they gonna tell us, we want you to survey at each quarter section, 3 sets, or can we just survey that long piece altogether? And do the rest?
So
It depends.
you have a state agency who wants a state, Alaska State Land Survey, and you have a federal agency, BLM, who already has surveyed it. And guess what? No, the same surveyor worked for the BLM and then went to work for the state. But he's retired now, so the people there don't have a clue. But no one has ever given them the federal survey. Now, they could walk a quarter mile away from their office and get it, or they could call over and ask them to send it over. But no one's ever done that.
But as far as the money we would have to spend, I think Baxter's asking, could we just survey a quarter section of that, or do we have to do the whole thing?
Most
that we
likely.
do
I
there?
think we ought
Make
to
us do
push.
it all.
I think
They make it do it all.
Because that one there has a lot of monuments, and part of the process is we apply to the state to get survey instructions. They'll go through the historical records and find out if there's any monuments there. Which will,
It's on mute.
get it now?
Nope. Don't laugh. It's much as bad. The mute doesn't do it. It's just
Is it looping?
you gotta go into audio.
What this- no.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. My fault.
No. So the state will go through and do like their historical thing. They need to find out if there's easements and what survey's been done and stuff. So they do their records. So that's kind of where I don't know how long it takes them to do the research. Because we can try to choose a section, just like a little section if we want, and they go through and kind of pick what they think might be more useful. Because like this parcel, if we were to pick all of the Anert, pretty much goes all the way out to Ravine Creek, which is probably what, like 6 miles?
6 miles.
About 6 miles,
There's-
you know? Which shouldn't have, besides for BLM surveys, I don't think you're gonna encounter encroachments or easements or anything out that way, so.
Well, you got the inter,
That kind of stuff, but yeah, you might have like the intertie, but there's not gonna be all kinds of other things, like when they did Pangini, the Pangini section. We originally had put in just for the lignite area, but the state came back and was like, nope, just do it all. Which we also incorporated like, the Stampede Ridge area. But it took them over 2 years to give us instructions for that because of all the 2 historical trails, the power line easements and all the history with that. But they might, if we wanted, we could probably just pick the whole section, because with the Village subdivision, there's monuments out there for all the little lots and stuff, and there should be at least the corner markers for all the.
well, like I said, I found all of the 2.5 inch
Mhm.
brass monuments for all of those corners all the way out to the end. I know where all of those are except one, and I just haven't taken the time to go find it.
Mhm.
Because I know where the other 3 are. I know I could home in on it. I just haven't done it.
Mhm.
But if you're going to do that, and you're going to get a survey instruction, I mean, and they accept the federal survey, why not ask for the whole string of, how much?
I think we
is
should
it?
get the whole parcel.
Yeah, I mean, it's surveyed. It's
Yeah.
already surveyed.
Our goal is to. is to take title and all
Page
the-
80.
Subunit 1.
Sub area 1 and 2.
The whole puppy, yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
I know where all of these monuments are, except this one right out here, the far right-hand side, upper right-hand side. I haven't gone out to look for that one, but the rest of them I found.
Yeah, and the state will, once they do their research, and if they recover that they see that BLM has put all the monuments out there, they just will narrow down our scope to whatever needs to be surveyed, and whatever BLM has a survey for can get us patent to it. So we may not have to survey a lot of
Well,
it.
might have to recover, verify the position of them. That's a lot cheaper than surveying the whole thing.
So Amber, it's page 80 for the longer view of the Anarch holding
Oh,
that we're talking about.
because
Survey.
in future development,
Yes. Well, you
Well,
can go in and fix that.
That's what, yeah. that one.
and page 81 has a topo map that shows inside the yellow stuff all the way out there too.
What is number 2 on the map on page 80? Was that block? That
For the management plan purposes, it was divided into 1 and 2.
no. The number 2 inside the white square.
That's just a label.
2,396.
Subsection 1, subsection 2.
So it's not like a little square that's not part of it. Okay.
No.
No,
got
that's
it.
just my sub area.
Thank you. I've got it. Thank you.
Yeah, there's no subdivision out, no, there's nothing inset or
Okay.
that's kind of that Chain of Lakes area.
Yeah, I just broke it up.
Yeah.
So I could describe the patented area in one and.
So basically the whole Chain of Lakes Trail is in borough
Yep.
land. Might be just at the Horseshoe Lake, might be one little corner that's out of it, but not much. Most of it would be on water.
Yep.
It is.
Yep.
Can I ask another question about, this is going back to that little rectangle that has a lake in the corner at the end of, like, right adjacent to your property? Did you say that's buildable?
Which one?
The map on page 86, are you looking at again?
85?
85.
Well, if you go to 86, you can kind of see. Here's the road.
86, yeah,
That
86.
patented 5 acres
That
beside you,
patented.
Steve, I think is what she has.
Mhm.
Patented 5 acres beside,
I don't know that it's 5 acres, is it?
which one?
The little
Well-
rectangle? It's on the road up to your place?
Oh, that's a filing, that's lot 2, US Survey 5565. It was filed on by Bob Esri at the same time I filed on mine, and he didn't prove up on it. So it went back to the state. Just like my lot, the lower half of that lot, or the lower 2/3 of it, is frozen, north facing. I don't consider it usable land,
Oh,
but the upper 2 acres of it is really nice.
oh. So,
And
So
I
it
would,
is- I
I
mean,
would
since it's-
recommend resurveying it and keeping that lower part as amenity land, green belt around the lake.
Oh.
Instead of allowing the lake.
so it slopes from the road down into the, down to the lake.
No, the road is yeah, it goes right from the road over the hill and down the lake. And before it drops off to the lake, it's kind of flat up there. It's nice.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So since that's patented already, is that something that we could,
Well, you'd have to resurvey it. In my mind, you'd have to resurvey it to get the unusable land. I mean, it's terribly frozen and boggy and musky and hummocky, standing water all year, all winter long. Not all winter, it's frozen, but it never dries out. Same as the lower half of my property. Which this is, and yeah, and it's actually my lot and part of that lot's in the no use zone from the state, from the river. But because they already existed and they're not visible from the highway, they've let them be alone. There is another 5 acres of surveyed land up above here, right on top of the bluff, but they won't. It was surveyed because it was surveyed by the federal government, and the state won't do anything with it, because would be this huge eyesore from the river and the highway.
When you've said the state's no use zone, is
Yeah,
that
they've got a no use zone along the Nenana River here, and
is that like a
Scenic
cultural
corridor.
landscape, scenic corridor?
it's a scenic river protection.
Okay, yeah, easy.
all right,
And you look at the Montana Creek land that we have, it's got the same setback.
Sure, yeah.
That's why we couldn't get river frontage land, is because they had this no use zone along the river.
I think around Reeving Creek, it has it too, out there in the far end.
Yeah.
It has a public use, I guess, area,
Public use
50
area,
foot.
yeah.
From Shore Bank.
Wild and Scenic Rivers Act. But not,
And I think it's a good idea. And this black squiggly line that goes up along here is actually not a road, it's an easement.
Section line.
Well, section line easement, yeah.
it shows as a little bit of a sad trail on some
Oh,
of the
well.
aerial photos.
I dare you to drive a vehicle.
We've tried.
Don't.
I dare you. Oh, please.
I asked that you don't.
You won't be
It's a
coming home with
section
that
line,
vehicle.
yeah.
Yeah, you'll be there for a while.
You can use it as the foundation for a new tower. Yeah.
No, you won't get to the tower.
Good.
okay. Great.
So can I just ask one more question, Steve, and while we're, getting this great download of information from Steve, who knows this area so well. Of those 2 potential routes to access, not just 31, but the patented quarter section of 31, but we'll just say that area, the two potential routes, one off of, the corner of your road where that trail goes out, and the other as we described below those Karma Ridge lots, those are the two potential routes into that terrain. Which do you think is more feasible for road construction?
Oh, if you go up onto that dog leg going towards my house,
Mhm.
and then you head over to 31, you won't make it.
You won't make it. Okay.
I
The
mean,
snow machine, maybe.
maybe 200,000 or 300,000 yards of fill, and
Okay.
then you'll have wavy road for the rest of the duration. I mean, it's the lake that I live on.
Yeah.
Is spring fed, and it doesn't have an outfall, but it's seepage. There's water out there, overflow water down that little valley, all the way over almost to where the 31 is written on the map.
Mhm.
Now, that's why I'm saying, if you go around the bottom of Farmer Ridge lot, that double row of lots up there to the bottom, and as it angles over towards 31, and you can then kind of angle over and stay on fairly dry ground. And then once you get over to the dark green area, you hit a bunch of eskers and stuff. The southern part of this lot is wet. It's got one or two little bumps that have trees growing on it, but otherwise it's wet. But then you head down that right-hand side headed towards the lake up there where 30 is. You end up with all sorts of little eskers that go off to the side, and you could go out over all of those, and really nice property. And the cut line that goes along the northern edge of that quarter section is, for the most part, is very nice land itself. So the northern part of that whole quarter section is much more developable than the southern part of it. It's a lot less wet. It's actually, even though you don't look south, you have sunshine in the area even today, and it's flat and dry, and or up on eskers that's dry, and they're big enough you could actually develop the top of them.
Thank you.
Question clarification. So Yannard B, as referred to, is that just the lands that we own within section 36? Is that what Yannard B is?
Yes.
Okay, and then Yannard is 31 and the stuff to the east.
And that's the way
Okay.
the state described it when they conveyed it.
So Yannard B is just those, okay.
Yep.
Yeah, I mean, the way it's
Mhm. Well, this stuff in here, we can look at.
yeah, this is separate than these two.
Yep.
It was just a way for them to kind of zoom in on the little parcels.
Okay.
Otherwise, they just look like green dots.
This is
Okay, all right.
Saturday right here.
Okay.
This, and you can see the non-use zone,
Mhm.
you know, there. Oh,
And that's why this is there. Stripping away right there. And used because of the river, Park Springs River.
but you know, section 31 has a lot of potential. The northern half of it especially. The southern half of it, no, I'd say, you know, probably 60% of it is got good potential. And, you know, Baumhoff did court it, and so we have a pretty good idea. I have a pretty good idea of what the soils are like out there.
So
So
what do you need from us?
I'll say, yeah, I think this has been basically like a work session type of, session here, in terms of what we're doing. There's no action, that we're contemplating. It's kind of work session, activity. And that's one area that we wanted to look at in terms of, patented land and potential, and knowing that that's also next in our priority list for survey, for boundary survey. Shall we look at a couple other areas too?
Mhm.
So I'd say earlier we focused in on the Healy area, right? And we looked at the Healy area, we looked at Lignite and others. There are some, it's worthy of consideration. I know there's maybe we don't get as many requests or questions about available land further north, but there's some decent, there's some in the Browns Court section. I'd go, Amber, I'd maybe ask you to go to page 30 of 93. And, on the one pager that Teresa put together of the list of parcels with residential classification, the Browns Court does say high priority for possible land sales. And 275 isn't really that. It can be a good area for potential employment from base, and there are a number of folks who work at the park who do live in that area as well, make that commute. So it's worth kind of just looking at what we've got there for patented lands, or even already subdivided lots. See, that's what we've got here too, or some already subdivided lots.
Yeah. DOT hired me to take them around through all those little roads and stuff out in there a few years ago, because they didn't have any idea where any of this stuff was. And they had people who were saying they had cabins, but they had no verification of it. So we went out and found them all, and the ones that were built and the ones that were partially built. And some of them were lived in, some of them weren't.
Mm-hmm.
So it was an interesting 2-day outing.
Yeah, it is the part of the borough with the most subdivided lots, from the different subdivisions, the Anderson subdivision, the Kubota subdivision, and the ag parcels, Kobe.
So, section, the area marked out as 3, I think has some pretty good potential for development in it. For, cabins and stuff like that, not so much agri land, but cabins and things.
Well, so the Windy Hill University subdivision,
Mhm.
what's there now?
There's a few homes back in there,
A lot of lots.
a lot of lots.
The
So
university just got it for sale now.
They do, yeah.
They have
Over
the
the counter
Dakota
sales.
subdivision and the Windy Hill subdivision. They are selling lots in them.
Okay.
Yeah, and we own a couple of them. Look at that.
Yep. And are they talking about doing the roads and stuff like that, or they just,
No,
is
they're
it
just
just
trying to
remote
sell all
parcels?
They got them, I guess they got them kind of in their land selection. They got those 2 subs and they got the Anderson subdivision. But no, they don't have any intentions of building any of the roads, but they are holding off on the Anderson subdivision because you can't really get to it.
Mhm. And Marcia, maybe I'd ask a little bit about the milepost 273, 274 area. I know there's a gravel pit in there.
Not an active one. Well, I guess there is one, but the other thing about that one is right down the middle of it is the proposed pipeline
That's true.
corridor,
Right.
which is going to make pretty much what by 274 potentially very hard to use. 73, you can get a little bit away, but it depends on how big they make their right of way. If they're gonna ask for 100-foot right of way for that pipeline.
So what about these little lots off of this little squiggly off of Rectangle Road? These are already subdivided lots, like 5 of them, I guess.
It would seem that those are patented and
Mhm.
basically ready to sell at our
Yeah,
leisure.
it's like a little subdivision up there. Kind of in between those and the subdivision is an ag parcel, and then over like. Basically, I think part of 17, 20, 18, and 19 are ag parcels too.
You're also, this map doesn't show the railroad, but it runs about on the section line just a little bit west of Rexiana Road where it intersects with the parks.
Mhm.
So those green parcels in the northwest of 24 would border basically the railroad, which is okay. Do a whistle stop.
So the railroad would be in the next 23 across that section line?
I think it's about on the section line or maybe just a little west of it.
If you go
it'd be just a
to
little bit to
page
the west of it.
34, it shows the. Right here.
Yeah, sure does. Yeah, it was okay. It's not quite touching, but it's.
The railroad's still there. You'll be able to hear it.
You can hear it.
But-
I can hear it.
But you can see those ag parcels around there too.
Yeah, and the state did sell, I think it was in maybe 2017, they sold more ag parcels like off to the east of that.
And you can see that there's a lot of roads out there that kind of usage roads.
They're, I remember them as being decent roads, ride a Subaru back there to at least these parcels here without
Well,
too much trouble.
Yeah,
that
but
point.
back over in this area there's trails.
I think you're looking a bit at, there's trails. There's the intertie running through there. Certainly some trails under there.
I think there are some trails, if they've been used or not, to the east of like the long blue parcels. There's a few trails now. I don't know how long they've used. There is another trail that actually goes along and would go past the Windy Hill subdivision south. I did talk to a gentleman that bought a parcel probably like 5 miles south of the Windy Hill subdivision. And he was trying to figure out how to get there. But he said he'd like to DNR and there is a trail. It was just going to be a monster of a trail to fully develop so he could drive his little car up there. Because it hits some kind of wetland and everything.
Yeah, you drive around out there.
6, we'll call
Yeah, 6.
them. That's not that far from the highway, right?
Yeah, we could sell those tomorrow.
Commissioner Ward, you know this area, the terrain there seems pretty,
Yeah, you're looking at alluvial gravels, groundwater right next to the river, but you're a little above it. Groundwater's at my house, it's about 170 feet, but there it's probably closer to 50 to 100 feet if I'm just guessing. Really good build material for, you're on gravels. Yeah.
I think the university has, and kind of in the Kobe Ag area and all in there, they have soil surveys and all that. They did research out there.
Yeah,
You can even find it where they'll tell you what kind of materials out there and everything.
I think it is on the web soil survey. This whole area is indexed, so.
How big are those lots? That's
They're probably,
nice.
those 6 lots is pretty flat.
They are,
And birch forest.
quaking aspen.
probably close
adding
to
most of
birch forest.
5 acre lots, maybe.
Yeah, it's really pretty driving past it in the fall when they all turn golden. It's just scenic as all.
Yeah,
Do we have those surveys for all those lots?
That's all.
I mean, was that,
What kind of surveys?
I mean, like for each individual lot? I mean, they would tell us the size of the lots.
They're about 5 acres or so, because all 6 of them together equal about 26 acres. So they might be, I guess, closer to about 3 acres, 4 acres. We do have a survey somewhere and it might.
This is stuff that came to us surveyed already.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because there is like a little subdivision, because there's kind of 3 more lots on that southern end. You can kind of see at the end of the little road. There is somebody that owns, I think, 3 little parcels right there. And then kind of basically in between some of those, there's actually parcels. So that was, I think, a little subdivision in its own that might have contained 10, 12 lots.
This one,
Further back.
further to the east. Are they off of the Rexana Road?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't know exactly where they
Okay.
are. I haven't been back there.
Where Laura and Jimmy are, how far back are they?
Close enough to bring vegetables out of it. I don't know.
But those are like their fields.
Those are not, that's not theirs.
Has anybody been growing anything in those fields? They were cleared and burns lined up.
Yeah, I don't
I
know.
don't remember seeing anything growing back
I
there.
think in the last couple of years, it just sold. So whoever created that, I don't know if they've been growing anything. And I want to say, I know like Frank Talarico has some parcels in that area.
Yeah,
I don't know what he grows up there, if it's just maybe some hay for his
Not sure
horses
if
or
he
something.
there, yeah.
He wanted to do sod for a while too, for the golf.
Yeah, he
course.
and Carl Jewett,
Yeah.
both had, but shoot,
Yeah.
I bought hay from him
that
one
area.
time, and that was back like 1983, before. What happened since then?
I thought those were some areas worth looking at as we're.
The patented land that we have at Otter Lake, it's, I think section 2, that's stated still like, is that a lease to a golf course still a pending thing or?
Let's look at that map. Where are we?
Page 67. Is where it starts.
That's something we need to reapproach them. A few years ago, Joe Usbelli did come in and said that they have some interest in it. We're still working through this process and some stuff, so I'm hoping this spring I can offer applications to our leasee, the people that have been waiting for leases.
Remember it's 69, page 69.
There's the map, yeah. Go ahead, subsection 2 up there, top left side.
Yeah, that's patented. It's a big area.
280 acres.
Hold on,
If you look at the map on page 70, it's pretty chewed up by trails and
I do believe what it's currently being used for is like also like maybe a little cutoff for some of Black Diamond's ATV rides and stuff.
Sub-area 2, which is the patented area. It was classified at this time as recreation. It did say possibly leasing. I think that had gone through a previous designation as well as recreation.
When Frank Talarico put in his application, they went through the whole process, classified a recreation. He wanted to expand the golf course back in 2005 or so. When they went through the whole process, they did the public thing, got comments and everything on it. So now need to reapproach them, find out if if they still want all of it or just part of it, or what their intent really is for it now. I'm not sure if they still want to expand the golf course.
And then, so that's sub area 2. That's classified recreation, 280 acres. Sub area 1, we have on our residential classification list, 644 acres. And that's in, the light green management authority, but that's been surveyed, right?
It's been
And
surveyed, but we haven't reserved the patent yet.
yeah, so
It's
that's
in the process.
pending. And it's probably not that far off, really.
Back in the state's hands.
Yeah.
We completed the survey, it's been done, but then oddly enough is they now make us apply for the patent after it's been gone through the surveying process. So then it goes through a different department, the conveyance department.
So I'd expect that within the year,
Yeah, I don't think it should take them too
not
long.
far off.
But I mean, we can start planning on it, but there was also another one. If you look at the map just a little bit, there was Black Diamond had also requested like another 80 acres within the sub area 1 up there. I don't know what for, they never approached the borough for it when this, so kind of up where the curve of the road, if you go to you're on page 69, there's kind of a state map. So that one right there. So there's kind of a little blue square or big rectangle.
Hmm.
That was another lease that Frank Tallarico had submitted to the state to lease, but then the state kind of held it a while, and then they pretty much told them it's the borough's property, so now go apply with them. As far as I know, he never came and applied to lease that portion. But that was like another 80 acres.
Now we've spent some time out there. This is where the 2 access points to Dry Creek are, and we had a
Mhm.
couple of conversations about the controversy on that
Yep, and that's Carpet Road there.
right at the end of that, right before those
Gone out
slots.
there a couple times, once for that, and maybe
Yeah.
once before you got on. We actually went out there and looked at the condition of the road.
Yeah,
Because there were some tours and stuff and people doing some tearing up some of the open fields, doing
Oh.
donuts and stuff out there.
That is a big giant gravel.
Well, now there's a giant gravel pit to fix the road. That thing gets bigger every year. Because a couple of years ago, it wasn't that
Unpermitted.
big. It was a third of that size.
Yeah.
And there has been talk about, there used to be on the southern end of number 1, kind of where the split in the trail kind of road is. There was an old trap shooting or skeet shooting range out there, and there's been talk about maybe that might be another place to put a shooting range. There's been interest through the years to get a shooting range somewhere in Healy.
And actually, yeah, the community and outdoor recreation committee is looking at that, planning. The planning process for considering where a shooting range might go. And they might come forward with some recommendations for the planning commission. I'm not sure where it is exactly. I missed it. But that is something that is still being pursued, still very much of interest.
So the old skeet range they shot in the direction of Otto Lake. And there used to be every once in a while, guys out there would decide that they were relatively well that they could hit things and everything up to, I know there's a couple guys with 30-06s that were shooting out there trying to hit skeet. So if they do, they probably want to change the direction of that. 'Cause I know there's some people are a little upset that stuff was falling down in Otto Lake in that direction. Even though it was only supposed to be skeet shooting, yes.
Yeah.
There's a couple guys that were really good.
Well, there's a lot of trails out there, and I know a few of the ATV tours, they do go out there because the trail kind of continues going to like section 34, and there's a nice like bluff area, and that's where they take their tours out to. So there are several spots out there, and I know Denali ATV does go out there a lot to the southern side, kind of in both sides, and then over and they might even go kind of to the left of that too. They're all over that area out there.
So those are Are those good roads down in that section? I mean, there's the
They
the
used-
one that
Depending
comes
on
up the Y.
They're drivable with a four-wheel vehicle. They're not very flat just because the water and stuff kind of pools out there and it drains back towards like Auto Lake, and it's really made it like a rough road, but they're wide enough to be a natural road.
Right.
They're pretty close to being almost a 2-lane road, like width-wise cleared, but it's not like really nice driving gig.
Mhm.
If you went out there and maintained it, it's just that the water pools basically where the two lines come together, that turns into like a big pond. And then, yeah, basically also like the black line that comes down in the orange area from, which would be kind of a continuation of about where Killian Road is. If it were to come down, there's a trail that connects it down, and that would be, and that also turns into like, it goes from the end of Killian down to here, it also pools up with water. Because when you drive out there in the spring, you'll see right where that dark line kind of meets the road out there at the kind of corner of the orange. It's a big puddle, big pond right there. And then farther down, it's a puddle. And then those two puddles meet, making that road not nice to drive on.
There's some good washouts there that even an ATV wouldn't.
Yeah.
Like it.
So is there ideal buildable land out there?
I think we'd have to walk around. I think you
Yeah.
could build on some of it. Some of it is kind of wet in the spring.
I'm not so
Yeah.
sure about that subsection 2, but subsection 1, where we're still waiting to get title to, would probably be some better land.
I mean, there are a couple of things built out there. A
Mhm.
couple people made it work.
Yep.
I'm just wondering if it's efficient enough use of a road, if there's enough lots that are buildable in that area that it's worth us investing in a road.
There is a lot of recreation that takes place out there.
Mhm.
If you'd want to think about kind of the edges, right? And then in the center where recreation is kind of all around you.
You'd want to be careful about the following Dry Creek. Because that's historically all the way around Dry Creek from the light blue all the way down is a bad flooding area. When there was the big flood over on Killian and Ranch Road, they saw it too. I mean, that's basically about where it started, and it washed out all the way from there, all the way up to basically Yvonne's place on the end of Killian Road, all the way up. So you'd want to be careful of, putting houses there, because if it does flood, it will flood.
That water goes all the way to like where Hilltop branches off and Ranch Road starts. The
Mhm.
water just floods that whole area down.
Well, if you actually look at a kind of a historical map, is about right at the end of Killian Road or so, it actually has a natural drainage that goes up and follows and kind of pops out where it did do the flooding and washed out Ranch Road. There is a ravine right there that also where like Himalaya Drive is, and that's why it washed out their little culvert, just because that was the natural drainage.
Yeah, this area is, not easy. There's a fair number of uses and there's a lot of wet areas.
I think you could get some, but yeah, you're not going to get like the bigger subdivisions, all continuous lots. You might get a few here and there, kind of more spread out, which isn't too bad. But the bigger thing is, you're gonna have to work it in with the recreation out there, is then redirect them, because this is basically where a lot of people go and ride their ATVs and stuff. I mean, I've even seen people drive their SUVs out there to go onto the bluffs, down the bumpy roads and up the hillsides out onto the little plateaus that are out there. And it's a pretty view if you're up by the plateau, but it's on state land. You can actually see back into Healy.
Yeah.
And you get to see the coal seams from the old mine that was out there. But if you're planning like some of the lots that were already have sold, you might want to kind of bundle them together just because it's a long and expensive process just to sell one lot, because you guys have to decide what you might want to sell. You have to actually send it up to the assembly because they will set the conditions and rules and stuff. If you guys have recommendations, you can send it up, but they have to set it by ordinance, land sales, the conditions and everything, and then we'll generally go out to some kind of probably auction, whether it be a sealed bid or an outcry. And would be expensive at an outcry auction for one lot. Because we have to do public postings and everything like that, so it'd be good to bundle a whole bunch of lots.
Got it. Thanks.
Set the
That's-
price and
that's
just have a lottery.
Yeah. Yeah, because we just have to, do postings and have multiple postings and newspapers and other stuff, so.
Mhm.
And then, yeah, if you're doing like an outcry auction, you gotta have your auctioneer and people there.
And everybody really be unhappy. I'll be unhappy because his ATV trails got sold. Joe would be unhappy because he might have to take his horses off of a maintained road.
I'd agree with that,
Any
that
problems?
Marcia's point of, of bundling and doing it in one process in terms of any kind of sale, and maybe even bundling for the planning process, frankly, in terms of, asking an engineer survey firm to do a conceptual design of the lignite area. Valuable to go ahead and look at some of these other areas and see if there's some other questions or areas we'd be interested in looking more closely at, and for that purpose. So I think this has been helpful. Are there any other areas on this list of residential classification
Did,
we want to look at?
if we look at the Healy area. Was a Healy sub area 1? Was it 2?
Basically, the Healy area is kind of, would be more kind of the southern end of like the Pangini, kind of combines it between Dry Creek and what Pangini's kind of lots are, and
So the stuff on the east side of the highway in sub area 1, it's basically adjacent to the. No, it's not adjacent. Well,
it'd be basically what's between Dry Creek and the end of what you guys are kind of looking at on Lignite. The Pangini
Pangini.
parcel there.
Mhm.
A, B, and
yeah.
Yeah, if you go to like page 65, there's like an aerial imagery, you can see it a little bit better. What is?
Remember last time that we talked about this particular one, the one on the right of the road heading north on the east side. We had talked about more of bigger use, school reserve, whatever field type
I
things.
think that's where our municipal building should go.
Yeah. I think we mentioned that even like talked about.
We didn't ever walk, I think, on this, we kind of peeked through the trees, but we
Yeah,
never
we
got
walked
through
on,
it.
yeah.
We walked on
the
the
other
west
one where we
side.
looked at where it went up the hill
Yeah.
from the ATV or the zip line tour where they park their ATVs.
Right.
So that one, I just remember we said we would think about, we left it as multiple use
Mhm.
in the event that we wanted to use it for something bigger.
And Mark may know a little bit about this area, because it kind of the southern end. I don't know if you guys have kind of skied down the power line easement or what.
Mhm.
When I rode on it's kind of wet a little bit by the highway, if I remember correctly, because I was riding my 4-wheeler kind of down in that area, and it does get a little swampy wet, but And there's a little trail, I think, that does kind of connect from there that we kind of saw that does go along, and it does continue past this area, and it leads out to, I think, the little bridge by the, going out to the Tipple.
The trail that goes down to the Tipple Road, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. It kind of shows up pretty well in that map.
Yeah, so you have like the, what is it, the
Yeah.
intertie that's on
From
the
the Dry
far,
Creek, yeah,
far east side. And then, yeah, that's the road, kind of the little trail right there,
Yep.
if I remember
and
correctly.
then that trail where you just went to the right, then that carries on down to the Tipple Road, yeah.
Yeah, off the page, continues out to go to the Tipple Road. And I do believe some people kind of walk out in that area, kind of past where the map is.
I mean,
There's some trails and stuff out
we
there.
walk there, ATV,
Mhm.
ski.
There's some people that, yeah, in that subdivision that walk out that direction. So there's trails and stuff past the borough property.
That trail that connects the highway to the Tipple Road gets quite a bit of use. All year long.
So if you go to the north corner of that, if you like stay towards the north of that trail, what's that land like? Is it?
It's not very good land. I mean, used to pasture bison there, buffalo, but as far as building, it's not great. It's kind of the scrubby spruce trees. I mean, I don't think it'd be very, very nice there. I think you need to go further to the east to get into the better land.
So most all of this stuff here from Dry Creek, looking north through there was all the or black spruce all the way through there. So, you know, it doesn't really, you get farther down there, halfway, 2/3 away from Dry Creek to well, the water hole or the swamp down there, you know, the open area down in the south of the Blue Church, you know, that open area there. You see where all the cottonwoods, some of most of that stuff in the trees there is pretty good. You got a long stretch from Dry Creek getting to that point. If you halfway through there was where we quit brushing it because it started getting into the bigger trees, and it was drier, which means grass doesn't grow very good up here. The only place it grows is when it's moisture. So we can use that for the cutoff line there. So you'd have over half of that from Dry Creek to that area is the south. It's not, I wouldn't say it was very good building, no. Some of this little bit of stuff maybe along the Dry Creek edge there, where the trail cuts and where the kind of the V is. But those are the only significant trees in the whole area.
Mayor Walker, has the Outdoor Trails Committee talked about these areas much? I mean, I know we've got all of the skiing trails and things on that section of things, and I'd hate for us to start imagining developments where another group might imagine a trail system or something.
I think they have been compiling that inventory, and they're still in the early stages of their work as a committee. And honestly, I have missed a couple of their meetings, and Teresa could kind of better speak to where they are, but I know that it's early in their process.
And I think that's where a public process would take in. You guys kind of find an area and think about how you might want it, and then you correlate with what they're actually doing and where they might see it. And then you help plan around like adding trails or something in this area or whatever area they have, or what kinds of trails they want. If they want smaller ones or just for like non-motorized type of stuff or skiing, or bigger, wider trails that could be multi-use for skiing on the side and snow machining on the other side. Yeah, there's a lot of activity in a lot of our parcels, and you have to also watch, like some of these parcels also do have the proposed pipeline going through them.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that doesn't show
Because they've,
up on these
I
maps.
didn't show up on these maps, but you can almost guarantee they hit every one of our parcels.
They pretty much did.
And your driveway.
Because they felt it was easier to get
Right.
permission from us than the state or the feds.
Yeah.
Huh?
It was just I think some of their routing, and like they wish they could stay close to the highway, but with utilities and everything there and some of the terrain, it just wasn't feasible. And we got some bigger chunks. of
Public versus private, you know, just looking for that public land all the way.
They've secured most of, I think, their state ones already. So they've got their state land permits.
Has the Healy section, I don't, has that been surveyed yet?
It's in the process.
Surveying progress, okay.
It's in the process right now.
We're doing that.
GPS, the goal position units.
So GPS did Healy, they did Otter Lake, and they did Anderson.
They did the Northern Anderson, north of the old Monofil, I guess. This portion we did in Anderson. They're still working on doing the final review of the Anderson parcel, and they're getting, I think, the preliminary approval for the Healy parcel.
And then I guess while we're talking about our boundary survey process and priority list, I think the Yannert, I believe the Yannert was the last in that priority list, and we're putting in this year for that. And there'll be time to look at what's next. And, if we're really thinking about something that could move the needle in terms of land availability here, the kind of gorilla in the room is that Slate Creek parcel or holding of over 10,000 acres. And getting up that hill's tough, but and we that survey is going to be expensive and big and worthwhile in the long term. But I think that'll be kind of a consideration when we look at what our next priorities are for survey. I think Slate Creek will be worthy of consideration and significant investment in just the survey itself. Yeah, thanks, Amber, for bringing that one up. Big area.
When you look at the aerial survey, of the Pangini B area, and you can see, where the ground doesn't look so good, where it's brown, it's going to be wet. The lighter green is that have good roads, good tree coverage, and you still have that ridge to the north of Stampede Road, page 61.
That ridge is nice.
That ridge north of Stampede Road. We walked a little bit of it that day.
Yeah, it's beautiful.
Towards Andrew and Lydia's place, but yeah. If you look there, it's thick with trees and everything, and it's like good.
And it's
I
a
think-
buildable road. It's got a road, but it would need
Right.
more.
And then when you look on the lignite side of the highway, you can see that the only area that has, like the tree cover that most people would want some of is that section that we walked that day.
Yeah.
Which page are you on there, Mark?
It's the aerial map on page 61.
61. Yeah. That ridge is nice.
As is the ridge between, Dry Creek and Stampede Road, that we've talked about also.
Mhm.
So if you want some real pretty area, it's kind of solid. It's rocky. Not saying you'd have a really good view. If somebody's interested in tucking cabins or houses in around stuff, just before you go up, leave the highway before you head out Stampede, before you go up the hill, the first place. Okay, go across the culverts there. Before you start up the hill, the old cat train trail, wherever Stampede went, cuts off to the left at the base there. So you've got that valley up through there.
Right behind the church, or
You got about, it's halfway from the church to the top to the hill.
okay,
And at the base of the hill, you just cut to the left. And that's where the old trail went. Okay, when they put Stampede Road in, they bypass that, went up on the top, falls out around through there and comes up to where the beginning of the lease is. Yeah, it was up there. And it's really pretty up to there. It's little rock plateaus, vegetation and trees. The only bad thing about up through there is all the water that drains down from Mount Pangini down through the meadows there, comes down, washes out the culvert there in the valley, ends up going down through there, all drains down through there. But, and then also before you get to that culvert, going up the road there, if you cut off the original one before that, trail cuts off right there before the culvert, hangs left along that hillside up through there, quarter of a mile. Then it cuts back up over and joins the other road going up there. Yeah, it's really pretty up through there. I mean,
So we're looking, you're talking about the area south of the 5 and the 251. Just come due
start
south.
over in here. And I'm up here about, see here where this light line is?
Oh, there.
One cuts right along the base of the hill, and the other one cuts up through here, and they both kind of merge. So, but this whole area from here, and even back out from this way, is really pretty. It's not good grass, but it's all solid,
Mhm.
really easy to build on. Doesn't have a really good view, but the wind doesn't blow very hard in there, no matter what it is. And then it's just, if you're looking for a place to go sometime in the summer, walk around, take a look. It's really worth walking up through there. But like I say, the only problem is all the water from out the other way all drains down through there, which is the same stuff that drains through the culverts there in the valley road that wash that 2 or 3 culverts in there is not enough in the spring. They should put a couple more of them in there because it washes out from there and runs all the way down around to the back of the church and washes out the driveway and everything else down there. A lot of water, but it's pretty. Couple small bridges in there and you got whipped.
Thanks for that, Baxter. We call that, maybe call that in the area to the east of the horse pasture.
Yeah. Yeah, so if you look down here,
Mm.
and they kind of got it's pretty close to where it comes up, cuts across, swings back up. There's about in here. These goes in there, which is this little area. It's not very big, but it's
Mhm.
pretty place to build.
And I mean, and you had Stampede Road, state maintained road.
Right, and power lines right-
Power lines right there
Right.
along the road. And
And it sits low enough where the hills are in there, you don't get any wind there, of these
Mhm.
north or south winds. Of course, you don't get to see anything, but on the other hand,
Right.
a lot of people build inside of, one place tucked back and maybe someplace where people move by yourself.
choice you
Pretty,
make,
it's worth a walk up through there and take a look at it.
choice we make, a view with the wind or no view.
Right,
Yeah.
Okay.
so is that in Pangini's block 2?
That'd be
Yes.
Pangini B, yeah. There's a large area. A lot of land there.
Right, so there's that, so the section that you're talking about that's south of Stampede,
Right, so,
and then there's the thing up on the ridge that's north of Stampede.
correct.
Mhm. Mhm.
Okay, so both of those would be,
So if we're building on that little area on the south side would be Solider. But You have to put up with the water,
Mhm.
not that good. But the rocks are good. But you wouldn't be able to get as many places probably by them even going on top. So if you're gonna get the view from the hilltop, you have to cut out a lot of trees. But most of the hilltop is, the first edge is pretty good soil. But it's where all the tree, we walk back to where the spruce trees basically ended. And the reason that's because all the soil of the earth is, that's kind of soft in there. So that's usually covered with snowdrifts, and that's where it starts getting wet. So the reason it doesn't grow very good when they're heavy snow eaters, if you don't plow it, you got 6 or 8 foot snowdrifts in there.
On that ridge, on the backside of the ridge.
Yeah, where those trees are.
Mhm.
But once you get back, when we walk back there a little ways, you get back a little bit farther, so all the trees are like 15, 20 feet tall or something like that. You're back into the
Mhm.
spruce, and the ground starts getting wetter and wetter.
Yep.
But you had a great view up there looking if you're through the trees. I mean, it's a nice ridge line,
It's pretty nice.
but you're gonna have to watch out for the snow too.
You maintain that road.
It's not easy living in Alaska.
Gosh, no, there was no maintaining of the road. I mean, I cut 2 ditches from the road
Okay.
over through to the hill to drain off the ponds in there in the spring so you can get through.
Okay.
But I usually figured in the spring when the snow melted, there was like a month and a half that I still went back to walking the hill versus driving in. When I got the road put up from the hill,
Hmm.
I didn't worry about the back part. When it dried up. As long as I could get the fuel truck in there,
Mhm.
ones that didn't want to drive the hill, and then get fueled up, I didn't really care.
Okay.
I think most of the present tenants stuff have been using the back. As DNR said, this is not a road. This is what we classify as a unimproved trail.
Mhm.
The only part that was proved was right off the Stampede Road where it made the jog, had a culvert put in there. Had Jim Brennan come up and put a culvert in. He said, "What do you want?" And I said, "This is what I need right here." Went to work one day, came home, and he had the whole thing done, leveled out, packed down, everything else, get across that little drainage there, and it served good for all the time I was there.
Mhm.
So anyway.
Well, I'll offer, I think this has been a good, kind of, like I said, kind of a work session,
Yep,
really.
yep. Yeah.
And, what the next. We want to, thinking about what the next steps might be and open to thinking about that.
Yeah, it sounds like we have a long process to come up to really work with figuring out an engineering design firm.
Well, not necessarily a firm, but a process to go through
Yeah.
for the whole thing.
Right, deciding on the firm itself doesn't have to be that long of a process, but then the process of their work and bringing forward a conceptual plan to bring to the public and then taking it to the next step after conceptual plan to actually, planning it to actually, find a real drawing. It's going to be a significant process.
But I'm wondering what we could accomplish in our next month.
Yeah, I mean, when I did a similar thing in Fairbanks, it took 2.5 years to go through the process.
Right.
And I would think that we're looking at something very similar to that,
Mhm,
because it's the same steps.
mhm.
Thinking about next month, are we gonna have some plats coming?
Probably not.
Probably not.
I don't think surveyors can find anything.
Thought I heard something about plat, but okay.
I don't know. I mean, I don't see anything besides maybe for like some resolutions for road names or something like that. Otherwise, yeah. Surveying is pretty much on hold. It's pretty much like a spring to fall kind of deal. Mhm.
I'm gonna be out of the country from the 5th to the 20th of next month, so.
Yeah, when would our meeting be?
Maybe the 15th.
I will not be here.
Yeah, March 15th.
As
I
a
think that's-
borough staff, we have, March is our big budget month, and we already have a couple additional meetings next month. So if we don't have anything pressing.
So yeah, we could just not.
Yeah, we would.
Spring break too.
It's spring break,
That's not
state
gonna be-
basketball.
Also, those two gone now means
We might
the
be
other
gone,
5
too.
have to be here
Right.
to get
I'm
a quorum.
I'm just gonna say we might be on.
A lot of conflicts.
Yeah, let's just not do March meeting. And then, I'll just keep in touch with you to figure out, what we're looking at for April.
Sounds great.
In the meanwhile, if we want to all do a little bit of homework and those that ski and snow machine, and if you want to get out to some of these areas, or we can, I figure sometime in the spring or summer, we might do another walk around. But yeah, we'll just kind of figure out what we want to do in April.
And that'll be the thing, is taking the next few months to kind of figure out areas you're interested in, and then in the spring through summer, maybe actually going out and getting on the ground again.
Mhm.
Pick an area for a meeting and maybe walk a little more.
How many people have 4-wheelers here or access to them?
Yeah, side by sides too, and
Sometimes.
4 places.
Usually now.
I mean, the access, a lot of this 4-wheeler would be very definitely an improvement over walking. I mean, just simply because of the distances we have to go.
Yeah, it sounds like a plan.
Yep.
Plan on next meeting being that third week of April. Let's just look at that while we're looking at it. It's April 19th. A better date than March 15th.
Yeah.
Open season again.
Out of Valdez.
Our public left. We don't have any public, do we? No public comments. Okay, commissioner comments? James?
Yeah, I'll just thank you all for an encyclopedic knowledge of local history that makes all of this so much smoother and easier. Great hearing all of that. Thank you.
Steve?
Well, I was just gonna say that I wasn't gonna be here next month, but we solved that problem.
Yeah,
I've always enjoyed looking at maps and getting the histories of some of these areas. Was a good meeting, good, helpful, useful meeting, and thanks again to the mayor and the staff for all the work they put in. So
Susan?
Yeah, interesting to hear all this, and it'll be good to get the design firm involved and keep going with it.
Baxter?
Great meeting. Looks like we're going about as fast as we can. Doing all the P's and Q's and everything else.
I'd have to get appointed again if we want to see this through to the end.
Eric?
Thank the staff for all the time and setting up and doing what they do. So thanks.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
We have April, by the middle of April, we have to submit whatever it is, the form.
Yeah, whatever that one's called. Yeah, that one.
Financial disclosure, oh yeah, tax date. Yeah, right, it's due by April 15th. That's a good reminder.
So could you send out the form
Yeah, I'll have to
or
update it.
something like that?
Keeping us honest.
Yep. I really appreciate everyone's time, the staff, and thank you for everything you've done and yeah, I appreciate this meeting. It was fun. All right, next. Okay, so we need a planning commissioner to go to the March 8th meeting. That's at the McKinley Village.
I would love to do it, except I won't be here.
Down,
And if
sorry.
no one can go.
I can
the mayor does
report
it.
on what we're up to.
Okay, and then the April meeting for the assembly. What's the date? Do you know?
19th.
No, for the assembly?
Oh, the April one?
Would that be the 12th?
It'd be the 12th, yep.
And that would be where?
Here. Right here.
Does anyone? I'll be here.
Since we're not meeting in March, we don't have anything to report on it.
Right, but we're not going to the March meeting, so.
But Mr. Mayor.
Right, I'm just saying, we could also report back from them. Maybe they have something amazing to tell us. The whole reason we started this was years ago when we didn't have good communication between the two bodies. And so we started this, back and forth. So. All right. Okay, so I could try to attend that one. Okay, so our next meeting is April 19th. And the meeting is adjourned at 8:10.
Great, thank you.
All right.